Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first review for the Moderate Report. The first review we'll be doing is for A Cure for Wellness, the latest effort from director Gore Verbinski. For those who don't know, Gore Verbinski is the visionary director behind the later Pirates of the Caribbean films. He directed Rango, which won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature back in 2010 or 2011, I believe. Gore's really got quite a unique look to his films. He's sort of been criticised before for being a bit too overambitious, a bit bloated in his work. So you do get a bit of the over-ambitiousness that creeps through and can sort of peter a bit of his work. But Rango was actually a film I really enjoyed back when it came out. It really had a nice sort of homage to the westerns of Clint Eastwood's days and Sergio Leone. So Rango was actually something I really enjoyed, and just as something completely different from the usual Disney fare, Rango just had a beautiful, beautiful look to it, which I'm happy to say about A Cure for Wellness is, again, it is a stunning, stunning film. The film follows Dane DeHaan as Mr. Lockhart, who is a sort of young social climber. He's sort of working for this little stockbroker firm in New York, and he's suddenly a deal goes into place, and he's sent to go and retrieve someone from this wellness center in the Swiss Alps, which is where the majority of the film is set. Now, as he arrives, we start to see sort of little things build up as we start to learn about this village in the Alps that he's staying at, which leads to this castle on top of the mountain in the Alps. And in this castle is where this wellness center is placed. All seems okay at first when he first enters the wellness center. You know, everything is this old retirement place for elderly folk. People who go on there, people who think they have something wrong with them, they go to this center to try and cure themselves of whatever it is they're troubling them. Now, the thing is, as the plot moves along, it is quite a slow burn. I would liken it to something a bit more along the lines of The Shining. It's where that film has quite a slow burn to it, and that's kind of deliberate in telling the horror and mystery aspect of the film, as this is more of a psychological thriller where we sort of start to unravel and see what's really behind this wellness center and what the people are really up to. Now, the plot is a little bit predictable. You still sort of start to see where things are leading to. You sort of start to work them out in your head, but it never really quite detracts from your overall enjoyment of the film. There is a bit of a slow burn, as I mentioned, in likening to The Shining, but it isn't until Dane DeHaan's character arrives at the wellness center that things really start to kick into gear, and it does take a little while for him to arrive there. We're setting up this world, setting up what his character's about, what he's trying to achieve, and a bit too slow when we've come to expect from other horror films in the last year, such as Don't Breathe. Get to the point really, really quickly. Get to the horror, get to what we're there to see within the first 10 minutes, whereas this is a film that runs at about 146 minutes. So there are points, if you're starting to feel a bit uncomfortable, this film felt almost like 3 hours, which it almost is 3 hours. It's a long film. When really something like this needs to be about 90 minutes to tell. It's a story that needs to be told sort of quick and succinctly. Very clever in the way it sort of portrays its horror. There's a lot of, most of this film is sold based on its visuals. So, there are a lot of visions that Dane DeHaan's character sort of experiences, and that's where the real draw of this film comes from, is experiencing the visuals. And when Gore Verbinski really shows you what is really happening, if it's happening or whether it's not happening, it's not clear. It's up to you, but it's good. I do enjoy that Gore kind of leaves it up to the viewer to kind of decide whether they believe that Dane's character is really seeing what's happening on screen, or whether it's just a figment of his imagination. We sort of start to see Dane's character transition into this forced sense of insanity, which is something that for those who've seen The Shining, it's a very similar sort of transition from the character. We do get a bit of development in Dane's character, as starts as a very smarmy, very arrogant sort of social climber, really tries to use people to get through positions and to get to his objectives. But as the film progresses, we do start to see him sort of think more outside of the box and more outside of what he wants, and we do, by the time the film ends, he has changed as a character. So we do get that development, which is important. But one thing I will say is while the film is beautifully shot, the visual aesthetics are just absolutely gorgeous. There's some pretty disturbing imagery. I actually didn't realize how R-rated this film was until I actually sat down and watched it. And yeah, I'll tell you what, it's just insane the amount of detail that Verbinski has put into this. For some people who are into sort of the creepy, disturbed sort of horror, you'll get a kick out of some of these visuals. But for people who are a little bit squeamish, this probably isn't for you. It is quite grotesque at times, but other than that, I mean, it's still a beautiful film. One issue I will say, in the third act, there is a twist that could be seen as somewhat borderline silly. It's a bit too over the top, a bit too ridiculous, but I mean, if it was in the hands of an amateur director, it would probably fail. In this instance, you can sort of buy it. I think for some people, you're either gonna love that twist or you're gonna hate it. I won't spoil what it is, but you'll see it. It's pretty evident what happened there. It's not for everyone. What I will say is, if you're okay with a bit of a slower paced horror film that takes its time to really get to the plot, get to kicking off the plot and invoking sort of elements of corporate greed and exploring egocentrism and a whole lot of different themes as sort of watch Dane DeHaan's character go through this journey over the film, you'll get some enjoyment out of this. But if you're up for the more straight up horror that we've come to enjoy over the last year, especially this horror renaissance that seems to have been going on with Don't Breathe and Lights Out and Conjuring 2, probably isn't for you, as it is a slow film and it will take time to get to where you want it to go. Yeah, as has been a criticism of Gore Verbinski in the past, the film is over-bloated, it is long, there's too much in that doesn't really need to be there. You could cut the film down to being maybe an hour and a half. You would probably have a much more enticing and thrilling horror film. You would probably have people like me not sort of squirming in the seats, not because of the visuals, but just because we've been in the chairs way too long. So on a rating scale, I'm going by 0.5 rating scales for my reviews. So for Cure for Wellness, I would go 6.5 out of 10, or 65%. It's more of a film that you probably want to see maybe in a matinee session, or wait for it to be available to rent on Blu-ray. It is worth checking out on the big screen if you do want to sort of enjoy those visuals, because again, Gore Verbinski goes out of his way to really create some really magnificent vistas and stunning visual effects, which are just outstanding. This type of horror you don't really see a whole lot of anymore, not since really the days of Stanley Kubrick. While this isn't on the level of The Shining, it's a pretty good step towards a Shining, but hey, we can't get everything. But anyway, thank you for listening to the very first Mono Report reviews. I'll have more coming in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. You can follow me on Facebook at the Mono Report and on Twitter at the Mono Report. Stay tuned, and yeah, hopefully have more to share with you. Thank you.